What's up, everybody? I'm Justin Maytack here with my sibling, Matthew McCack,
What's up, everybody?
and we are Room 51, where we talk all things board gaming. And today, we're going to talk about how we handle when a rule has either been messed up in the game or if there has been accidental cheating where really just one player messed up a rule that benefited them.
Hmm.
So if you mess up a rule and all it did was hurt you, oh, actually, no, that's something that also we sometimes have to deal with too.
Yeah,
Uh,
like if it hurt you or if it hurt somebody else, if it just hurt the game altogether.
yeah. And it's something that happens. One thing that's very different from board games and video games is in a video game, unless there's a bug, you can't mess up a rule in a video game.
Right.
It's going to not allow you to do that, including if you're playing a digital board game. But in physical board games, we're human and we're going to misinterpret something in the rule book, or
Yes.
one person is not going to have fully understood what another person meant while explaining the rules. All these kinds of things, of course, happen. And sometimes also people just make small mistakes. They place a piece forgetting, like, oh no, I can't do that
Yep.
without having done this first, prerequisites and things like that. All right. Is there anything you want to start us off with?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this because last night, as you know, I played Mage Knight solo, and I've been playing
Yeah.
that a lot recently. I've really, really been liking that game. But as I was playing last night, now Mage Knight has a lot of rules, and it is daunting. But I feel like I'm getting it and I'm playing through, and I wound up actually winning for the first time, which was awesome. But I sort of had the sense of like, but did I get rules wrong? I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure. And I know that throughout the game, I was getting some rules wrong and I was trying to fix it. When I caught myself, it's like, oh, I had that card. I was supposed to do this thing. I didn't do it. So I was kind of fumbling forward a little bit. So then
Right.
by the end of it, I was like, can I say that I won? Or like, what if I missed some rules? And at the end of the
Yeah.
day, I'm like, heck yeah, I won. I don't care. I tried to fix it as best as I could. It's just going to happen.
Yeah, and Mage Knight is a bigger game too, right? So how long does that one take to play?
By yourself. So by myself with setup and teardown, it took about 4 hours.
Okay, yeah. Because I only asked because so when it comes to anything like co-op, and I would put solo in this category as well, we tend to go we always go with the Grim rule, and we also always go with like
What is the
if you
Grim rule, by the way?
okay, so the Grim rule is if you're uncertain on if you're supposed to do one of two things, you always do the worst one in
Yeah.
terms of a co-op or solo. You're always going to take the option that hurts you and the group the most if you're uncertain of which one to do and you can't find the answer to it. Uh, you go with the one that's going to hurt you more. Uh, so that's the Grim rule. And the thing is, though, in like a co-op, when you mess up a rule, if you've helped yourself in the game, do you count it as a win? And really, it all depends to me on how well are you able to rectify what you messed up. Because if you've been messing something up through half of the game, and it's just made that entire half easier than it was supposed to be, I definitely don't feel like I won.
No,
I'm
yeah.
fine with finishing the game and playing through it, but it's like we're playing this again. Even if we're not playing this right now, like this was not a win. This
Yeah.
in a game, though, most of the co-ops that I've mentioned in another video of I haven't played a lot of very long co-ops. In a game that's going to take me 4 hours, and I'm 3 hours in, and I realize I messed something up, I'm going to rectify that as best as I can, but I'm not restarting the game or
Definitely
anything.
not.
Uh,
That
eh,
is a good point you bring up, though, like the difference between a short game and a long game and
exactly.
what it means when you mess
Yeah.
something up.
Yeah, and that's why, like, for me in co-ops, I'm always gonna try. I'm hoping that we catch it as early as possible, but that's where I'm most strict about the rules of. Truthfully, I don't even handle the whole rectifying a mess up unless there's a clear way that we can rectify it and it works out perfectly. It's as if we didn't mess it up. But if you can't do that, and it's really more you're just fixing it to the best of your ability, but you still messed up and we've benefited from that, then I don't really count it as a win. If it hurt us, on the other hand, I count that as a win because it made the game even harder for us.
You mean in terms of a co-op?
In terms of a co-op. So this is only talking about co-ops because
Okay.
there's definitely a difference between how we handle it in co-ops and how we handle it in competitive games.
Yeah. No, and I agree. It's funny how we think about that too. Like, let's say we lose, right? And we know that we wound up making the game harder for ourselves. Let's say we find that out. I feel like I still count that as a loss. But
Absolutely.
if
Yeah.
we won and I found out that we made it easier for ourselves, I don't count it as a win.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is funny. Even if we were super close to winning with the co-op, and it turns out, oh, we made something that was harder for us, we might have actually won had we not, I still count it as a loss.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter. It's still a loss. It goes back to the whole always taking the grim option in co-ops. You know,
Yeah, it's like
unless
that's the rule anyway. That was the rule we played with.
exactly. So unless it was a true win, it wasn't a win for us. But now in competitive games, it gets a little trickier. You know, you can have 4 or 5 people at a table. We're all playing through a game, and somebody just messed up rules that made it easier for them. The first thing that I immediately thought of was we were playing Endeavor Age of Sail, and if you don't have any influence in an area, you can't place your disc there unless you first place your disc to gain influence in this little circle, right? And one of our friends had placed their disc into the area without having any influence or placing their disc into the circle. And this was a couple of rounds beforehand, right? This was a couple of rounds beforehand that we realized it, because I think I was about to place it. And I said, oh no, you can't be here. You're not actually allowed to be here.
You ain't got no influence here.
Yeah, exactly. And
have my place.
And we were just like, what do we do? And I think me and you both said on your next turn, you have to place a disc into the circle, right? That's what we said to do. And this is why I found this to be an interesting one. He asked, can I just take the disc back and act like I never did it? And the reason I wasn't okay with him doing that was because it was multiple rounds beforehand, and it impacted, I know for a fact, my decision making in the game, because I would have gone there earlier. It made too much of an impact. So truthfully, I think him having to place his disc in that circle next turn really screwed up his plans. Sadly, we had to give him the grim rule of this is going to be a really sucky thing that you got to do on your next turn, but you got to do it to fix it because you messed up a rule. You cheated a bit by accident.
Yeah, it like balances it out.
It balances it out. And I do think that really hurt him in terms of the game. But it was just a situation that there was nothing else to do.
Right. And at the end of the day, I mean, we play games to have fun. So it's not so much about like who won or who lost. It's about, though, you do want it to be a fair match.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah. And I agree. So yeah, that's what I think this is an interesting topic in terms of like, what do you do? Because sometimes it's either like you have to give, if it's a competitive game, you give one player the grim rule because they benefited already.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, it could be that there's no way to rectify it. We found out that you've been doing this thing halfway through the game, and you've just been benefiting off the wazoo.
Super hard,
from this. And then we're like, wait a minute. How did you even do that?
Yeah. Exactly.
And then we figure out like, oh, you messed up a rule long ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
In which case you just laugh about it, you play it through, nobody won, and it's just a game, would you say nobody won, or would you say specifically that person didn't win? Yeah, specifically, like if somebody else won, fine. But if that person won, nobody won.
Yeah, exactly. Unless like that person's mess ups really screwed the entire game, which sometimes happens in games, not often, but sometimes that happens where you really just mess up the entire game. But yeah, like when there's just no way of fixing it, it's like, all right, just start playing with the correct rule. And it's a whatever game, and we're just playing it for fun. It's fine, kind of thing. Now, when you can fix it, I've heard of some people say that they should receive a penalty, even if you can rectify it to perfection, as if no mess up ever happened. I know we always play, if you can rectify it, that it's as if they never messed up. We always play like whatever, just rectify it, then like that. But I have heard some people say they should still receive a penalty. Like, let's
No,
say you're playing a game with coins, you have to give up 5 of your coins also. Or you
no.
skip your next turn, which I think would be horrendous.
I'm
Uh,
sorry, but it is not that serious.
and that's exactly how I view it. There's no game. Like the most serious game I can think of is like TI4 because it takes 6 hours. Uh,
Even
and even
no,
then, yeah, even
no.
then,
Like
if you
what
can
is like
rectify
I'm
it,
not gonna take on a punishment. Like we're
yeah,
just here to have fun. I don't want to feel like I'm being punished now because I did something wrong. Like this isn't school. Like
yeah,
I just want to play a game. If we can rectify it, great. If we can't, we laugh.
yeah,
If I win, nobody won.
yeah, exactly.
And if I didn't win, well, that's how bad I was like at the
Right.
game. It didn't even matter. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't like that uh personally.
I'm completely with you. It's to have fun.
Yeah.
Now, if this was a legit tournament, we're playing for something that like it actually is now about the competition and not about the spirit of fun kind of thing. Uh, then in my opinion, messing up a rule that you can rectify to perfection, maybe if some situations I can see arguing like, no, hey, no, that messed up what I would have done then on turn 3. So no, they're out. Like that's it. Other than that, though, like we're never playing that seriously. Uh,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe in a tournament, yeah, like you get disqualified or whatever, however they're gonna, but it should be stated out beforehand
yeah,
that this is what's going to happen for the tournament. And I'm sure that other people who do this, even for just like the fun of it, they have it like this is what's gonna happen. It should
right.
never be that you make it up on the spot what the penalty is.
No, 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 no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's
No,
the thing.
that's a good point. Yeah,
Fury of Dracula actually handles this pretty well
yeah,
because whoever's playing as Dracula, we can't keep tabs on you. But if we then figure out that you did mess up, the game already has rules in place as to what happens to rectify the situation.
yeah. You're right. That's actually a
Um,
very good point.
yeah, which is
Uh,
cool, and I like it. It does suck because it definitely punishes Dracula
Real hard.
really hard. But at the same time, I feel like because Dracula does have such an edge in the game,
Yeah.
for you to also accidentally cheat, yes, things have to happen because it's pretty much impossible to rectify it. So it has to be a
Exactly.
penalty.
And you hurt the other players so hard when
Yeah,
you messed up. You
yeah,
get such an unfair advantage by messing up because
right,
you now have screwed up the path that they could have possibly followed.
right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the only game I can think of that acknowledges what to do when a rule is messed up.
Hmm.
Uh, and it kind of sucks because it's one of those things where I would like it if games had that, but at the same time, it's like, what are you gonna do? There's so many reasons. Like, for example, I'm thinking about Pandemic. If let's say you were supposed to start flipping 3 city cards that you're going to infect, what if you realize, oh shoot, we have only been flipping 2 the past 2 rounds?
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's a co-op. So in my opinion, you lost. That's it. You lost the co-op. You cannot count it as a win now, kind of thing. There's no way of rectifying that. But to continue playing, do you now start flipping 4 or do you flip back to 3? And that's one of those things where you're going to have to make it up on the spot.
Yeah. Like
Uh,
personally in that scenario, I probably for the next 2 turns then would have just picked up 4 cards
4
instead.
cards. That I think that's where I would have gone as well. But when it comes to competitive games, any form of punishment, if you're making it up on the spot, you're just gonna hurt people's feelings. Like
I
you're
know,
just
it's
gonna
like
get people
don't
upset.
punish me. I'm not your child.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what would you do though if uh sorry, not what would you do? What about those situations where everybody's been playing a rule wrong, right? Everybody's been playing this rule wrong, but it's clearly benefited only 1 or 2 people's strategies over everybody else's.
Ooh, that's a tough one. Before
Yeah.
you added that caveat, I was about to say just keep playing with the wrong rule the rest of the game.
That's what we a lot of times do once we realize, like, oh shoot, we're all playing with this wrong, but they matter. But like, imagine there's this one rule, and it's like with my strategy, I've really been banking off of using this
Yeah.
wrong rule.
Yeah, or
But
maybe even like your faction really benefits off of it.
yeah,
Maybe
that were
like
yeah.
yeah, with variable player powers. Um in that instance, I might say like, okay, going forward, starting like from the beginning of the next round, we're going to play with the right rule. But then it's just kind of like it's another one of those instances where like whoever wins, like it doesn't quite matter, like the game went wonky
Yeah.
anyway, but it's just to continue playing.
I agree with that. I think that sometimes people will make the argument when it's not variable player powers or anything like that, so we're all the same. I can see somebody making the argument of, well, we all knew about the rule.
Right.
I'm just the only one that decided to use it, kind of thing.
Right. If you're just using it, like if you're just banking off of that rule, then that's fine. Like you use that strategy to do that thing.
See, the reason why, because I was thinking about that at first, I was like, you know what, that is okay. We all had the opportunity to do it, but you're the one that benefited from it because you decided to do it. The reason I'm not a big fan of that is if it's a game, if the game is meant to be balanced, everybody's playing with the idea that this game is going to be balanced, right?
Right.
In my opinion, you got kind of lucky probably by deciding, oh, I'll go with this strategy. And you really benefited from it because we had the wrong rules and that was an OP strategy when it wasn't supposed to be. It wasn't supposed to be overpowered or broken. It should be balanced. So that's why I still feel like actually you didn't really win because
I don't feel like you really won, but I'm not going to take away the strategy from you since you've been building off of it.
right, because if yeah, you can kind of pull the rug from under them and now it's like my whole game plan is ruined.
Right, because they've been playing that whole time for that. So I'm not going to change it then. Because again, I feel like that person, you just wind up feeling like, oh,
yeah,
as opposed to the other players where like for me personally, if I wasn't benefiting from it, but you were because you did that strategy, um, I don't feel any which way of like if it was taken away from you or if it was kept.
okay,
So you're the one being hurt. So I would say, okay, we're just gonna keep it then.
right. I
In
can
terms
see
of
that.
emotions and feelings.
Yeah, because yeah, that's the thing, man. Rule mess ups can really get things tricky.
Yeah, you gotta go into philosophy and like
Yeah,
what's best for the overall group.
specifically for the fun of the overall group,
Yeah.
because you don't want to take that away. You don't want to turn it into just a not fun experience because of a rule mess up. You don't want to do that. You know.
Yeah.
Now, oh, do you have?
I do have a question.
Okay,
A
me
little bit
too.
of a side question.
Same. Okay.
Because so it's not so much about getting a rule wrong or accidentally cheating, but it's you had something in play. I'm specifically thinking of War of the Ring, second edition, that we played our most recent time, where
Yes.
I set something up to go off. And then when the moment came, I didn't use the setup, not because I didn't want to, but simply because we were getting distracted or whatever. And I kind of just forgot. It's a long game.
Right.
And I put that out much earlier on, prepping for this end game.
Yes.
Now, what do you think of so the person who like they wound up not utilizing what they prepared for, and they even made it clear that this is what they had, right?
Yes.
And then they wound up not using it, and then like maybe like 2 minutes later, after their turn is done, they realize like, oh no, I had this, I didn't use it.
Right.
And this was literally game winning for me specifically.
Yes.
And then had I not done it, game winning for you, literally.
Right. That's exactly what happened. So yeah, so the big difference there, and there's a lot of caveats here. The biggest thing was that you had shown publicly you have this thing very early on, and you were clearly holding it for this moment.
Yes.
Which is much different from you realized afterwards, oh, I could have done this.
Right, that is
That's
different. Yes.
totally different. Right there, it's like too bad.
Right.
And another big thing was you had played it down. This wasn't something that was still in your hand hidden that you're like, no, I was planning on using this, please.
Yeah.
That situation's even trickier, and I don't know.
Right.
That one's I don't know if that one would have really flown, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Usually,
if it was still in my hand and I forgot to play it during that turn, especially since you'd already started your turn and you did some stuff,
yeah,
it's
exactly.
too late.
It's too late at that point. But
It's
this is
too
a
late.
card that's down that could have been used. It was a 2-player game also, so I was okay with it.
And again, this was a very long game.
It's a very long 2-player game that we got distracted in because of other things and chores and stuff.
Yeah.
But because of that, I was cool with it. If it was, let's say, like a 5-player game, that's a lot trickier. And I think that's a situation where it kind of becomes a little bit of a too bad for you kind of thing.
Right.
And I don't even really know how to explain it. It's something about there being just more people involved in everything where it's just like, sorry, you kind of missed your opportunity there. Now, this is
That's
another
interesting.
situation though where
I almost feel like we could do a whole segment just on this, actually.
yeah, just on that one scenario, that can easily be
Yeah.
really look at it in depth. And
Yeah, I would actually like to do that. I want to make another episode just on this topic.
yes, I would be very down for that. Because also in a digital game, it probably would have reminded you that, hey, do you want to use this?
Right, right.
You know, and right there, that's again just it almost goes into the rule mess ups, and we're kind of just rectifying it. Now, I have a question that I once asked that was also more of an aside. Have you ever had the urge to purposely cheat in a board game?
Yes.
Same. Okay.
I have had the urge to do it, mostly because of a specific type of person. You know what I mean? Like that person who either just like always wins and is snobby about it. You know what I mean? Or like just they've been snobby this whole time about winning. And it's not even so much that I care to win.
You want them
Just
to lose.
don't want them to win.
I feel you,
I mean?
totally.
I will help. I won't even cheat for just myself. I will cheat for somebody else to win. You know what I mean? Like, and it's horrible. I haven't. I don't think I've made that happen. I've like I stood my ground kind of thing.
Yeah.
But having the urge, absolutely.
So for me, actually, I don't think I've ever had it in that scenario, though I have had that feeling of I want this person to lose. But the closest I've ever come each time I get the urge is when it's like, oh my God, I have this awesome play that I can do. It's like it would be like 20 points or something like that. It'd be so sweet. But I'm 1 coin short.
Ooh.
You know, I have 9 coins. You need 10 coins though to do the full thing. Things like that, just that small thing are like, oh, I just need one more gem. This cheap little copper piece or whatever. Something stupid like that that I'm missing this tiny thing. That's when I get the urge to just act like I had it. I always get that urge. But I've never gone through with that, because especially that, like, that's just not cool because it's hurting the game then for everybody else.
Right.
So obviously I've never given into that urge, but that's always when I'm just like, oh, I just want to so badly. Like,
I kind of feel that sometimes if it's a game that like I try so hard in and I always lose, and then finally it's like it's right there in front of me, I could actually win this if I just had like that 1 coin or something. Yeah, I kind of get the urge. I'm like, oh, if they won't realize it, you know, but it won't feel like a real win for me anyway, so it doesn't quite matter. And that's really why I don't do it. It's mostly the personality thing that gets to me.
Interesting. That's really when you get close.
I'm a very sensitive person.
Yeah.
People piss me off.
Yes, they do. I've witnessed it.
All right. Well, this is cool. I like this topic. And I'm excited to revisit it on the idea of what we were talking about with War of the Ring in another episode. So stay tuned for that, because that might be coming up soon. But Next week we are going to be airing our Speak Up Game of the Month. So if you have not already filled out the form, it is in the description below to give us your Speak Up Game of the Month that we will say. I was about to say live. It's not gonna be live. It's gonna be pre-recorded
Right.
on this channel. It'll be cool. It's just a game that you feel like does not get enough love at the moment. All right. Thank you so much for watching and or listening. You can find us on all sorts of social media down in the description below. We will catch you next time. This has been Room 51.